Calling all beings. Calling all beings.
Can I get an amen for everybody in free, Karen Reed and Calling All Beings Nation? Yeah! I'm your host, DJ. Welcome back to the show. It is a Sunday afternoon where we had to give some space from my homegirl, Nurse Kim, who about to get on with Turtle Boy, Mike, Mazza, The Glare. They're all going to be on there with pets and so forth. And my pets and I are going to be on here watching Nurse Kim. So we decided to go a little bit early and bring on this gem of a human being. This lady right here has more intelligence in her fingernail polish than I got in this whole damn body. So don't worry. We're going to come and say hi to everybody in the chat. But before we get down with that, let us say hello to the co-collaborator of Calling All Beings, my homegirl, Beatriz. What's up?
Hi, everyone.
How you doing, homegirl?
Good. Just defrosting from today's 17 degrees out in Dedham.
I was gonna ask her. She definitely favored function over form, or form over function, in the case that not necessarily the warmest boots. So her toes are probably freezing. So
toe warmers still, and it's 5 o'clock, 5:30.
Oh, she got the electric socks on. All right, so we're gonna bring on our guest. I'm very excited for this young lady here. I became aware of her upon my arrival in Boston, the same day that I met you. It was a Friday, and I was leaving Boston Logan, got in my rental car, and I was bringing up YouTube, and I saw the Taillight Whisperer, and I start listening, and I'm headed to meet Peter Murphy and Suzanne over at in Franklin at the pub, the Irish pub, Teddy O'Gallagher's, I think it's called. So I bring up this, and I hear this lady. I don't even know that her name is Grace yet. But I hear this incredible intellect and this voice and this analysis of breaking down the whole issue with the tail light and all the steps that were gone through by that gentleman. And she's going to tell me his name because I keep forgetting his name. But how he called Toyota in Japan, even, and trying to get details, and deconstructed that tail light and where all the diffusers and so forth and the LEDs were located. I was like, wow, this is an amazing content creator. I'm like, more people need to know about this girl. That's what I'm saying. Can you feel me, Beatriz?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's pay attention.
Okay. Sorry, I was reading the chat. You caught me. Okay.
Pay attention. All right. Let's go through this. So Grace is the creator of DreamFeed Media, a channel committed to making legal content and data analysis relatable and accessible. And she done did it in a calm, low sensory manner. But I'll tell you what, it's not too low for my sensory. DreamFeed Media has a mix of law, nerd, data analysis, audio content, and legal documents read out loud without yelling. Oh, sorry, without yelling. Flashing lights and unexpected loud noises from soundboards. Laws and true crime. That is the perfect for insomniacs, and those who are driving, those who are visually impaired, those who are up at 3 a.m. feeding their new baby, those with sensory sensitivities, epilepsy, migraines, and so much more. DreamFeed Media is one of the rare channels where your content puts me to sleep is received as a compliment, which is really cool because my content puts people to sleep for the wrong reason. So, so party people, put your hands together for my homegirl, Grace. Yeah!
Yay.
DreamFeed
Thank
Media.
you for having me.
Man!
Thank you. You're too kind.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you.
Too kind.
We got a lot of people to say hello to in the chat. This is a calling all being staple. So I'm going to start.
Okay.
So here we are. I'm kind of like it. So first of all, Julie is here and Sherry Farrell is here and Sarah, shock and horror.
Woohoo.
And Miss Jessica and Beezy.
Awesome. All your regulars.
Oh yeah, the official attorney of Calling All Beings, Valhalla Law.
Nice to see you.
Please let us know if either Grace or myself break any rules of evidence tonight. Valhalla Law. D-Mart is here.
All right.
Welcome, D-Mart.
Hey.
And this one we have to use the Irish accent. Do you want to do that, Grace, or you want me to do it?
You have the best. Go for it.
Hello, Kimberly McGuire. Welcome back to the show, love.
Using your Lucky Charms voice.
He switches between that and Mrs. Doubtfire.
That one comes later. I cannot break out the Dame Maggie Smith accent this early in the show. My Downton Abbey.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My husband does a good Dame Maggie. He does a good Dame Maggie impersonation. Oh yeah, because his favorite quote from Downton is when she says, "What is a weekend?"
Right.
I can't do it as well as he does.
Right. Every day is a weekend for the Dowager Countess, right?
Yeah.
What was funny? Wait, let me see if I missed anybody. People are saying hi to Beatriz.
Hey.
Debbie Blair is here. And GTSY, what does that mean again?
Good to see you.
Good. Hey, what's up?
I had to
Debbie?
Google it too.
Okay, thank you. I don't have time. I'm doing a show here. Christ almighty, I haven't got time.
Thank you.
Have I, Grace? I've got a show to do. That was my Scottish. Was that all right?
Sound good to me?
Okay, there you go. There's no rating on that. And look who's here, the legend. Whoa!
Woohoo!
Hey, handsome. Twice in
Sweeney.
1 day.
Wow.
Yep, freezing his ass out there today.
Oh,
and
it was 17 degrees.
We were out there for 2 hours from 10 to 12.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you poor things. Golly. That, I don't miss that. I do not miss the cold from up there. Goodness. No way.
She's talking about you right there. I don't miss the heat in Texas, so I'll take the.
Yeah.
I can always put on clothes. You know what?
You can only get so naked. It's true. You know, like.
Yeah. If you don't dress for the weather, you're going to be cold. And you can just go to the local outlet and get all the stuff you need to be warm.
Yep.
So, all right. Yes, this is correct. This is correct. Everybody should be seeing what this girl doing, and she about to break it off on you tonight.
Woo. Thank you. Oh, everybody's so nice. Thank you.
They are. Well, you've been in the you know the Calling All Beings family. I mean, when you got mods like I got, come on.
Yeah, top notch. Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to get up into it. We will say hello to you as we can. The band Via. Oh, I like that.
Awesome.
Yay, love Grace.
Thank you.
I know. She's an angel. She should do.
Thank you.
You should be doing audiobooks. Have you thought of that, Grace?
I have thought about it. I've been approached about it before, but it's just never been. I just haven't had an opportunity. Everything's been so crazy with the baby and, and my daughter getting ready to go off to college that there just hasn't been a good time. So maybe it's something I'll pursue.
Hashtag revenue
you have an
stream.
amazing voice.
Thank
Very
you.
captivating. And, if I can just throw a compliment out there, what I love about what you do is not only is it visual, it's you write things down. So it's like it appeals to different learners, right?
Thank you so much.
Your voice is
That's
just
my
so
goal.
Captivating.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. That's amazing work you're doing.
Make me blush. Thank you.
I've actually had people saying that they would pay me not to do audiobooks.
Oh,
so I don't.
stop.
It's kind of like the opposite. What's up, Cursing Nursey?
Oh, thank you,
Yes.
Cursing Nursey.
Hey, Cursing Nursey.
And we have a special greeting that we give to Deborah because she is from Franklin, home of Dean College.
Yes.
And it is the Los Angeles gangster greeting, which is, "What's up, Holmes?" All right. So, That's my best
Oh
21st Street
man.
gang, man. What's up, Holmes?
Oh
Anyway,
man.
all right. I think we've gotten to everybody. Please let me know if we miss you because, oh, Miss Mary Malaki's here. Good
Hey
afternoon, Mary Malaki.
there.
So I think we got everyone. We'll get started. Christina's here, and then you're never late, girlfriend. And we will because whenever you get here, or if you get here on the replay, or you don't get here at all, it's all good. We don't count them up like that. So what we aim to do tonight is Grace has done a number of different investigations tonight. She may have something visually that she wants to present, which she can do on the present icon at the bottom of your screen. You can share screen there and just put it on a different tab. So if you click that present, you can do that, and you can just share a tab, and then we'll all go to the side, and it'll be. And then for that, if anybody's having trouble reading that, if you go to full screen on your StreamYard here, you'll be able to really read it. It does block out the chat for that period of time, but Grace, tell what's going down with your latest business.
Well, so I think that things have really amped up. When I first started the channel, my plan was just to read the documents out loud for the people who didn't have the opportunity to be reading them. And then I started kind of dipping into analysis, and those were the videos that started to get a lot of positive feedback. And I was like, all right, we need to give the people what they want. And so I kind of let my inner researcher loose and just started really examining the data that we had very closely, and also conducting experiments with the resources that we have, which is mostly toddler toys and, diaper boxes and Amazon boxes, and just trying to like recreate things as best I could. And I was able to make the scaled model. And that's when I started noticing just like different angles and stuff that really made it clear that certain things that some of the people in the house that night were saying could not have been true. Like it wasn't aligning with what I was seeing. And so, but it was one of those things where, like, I'm sure that somebody who's more mathematically inclined than I am probably would have known that just, by theoretically looking at it. But I'm more like what you were saying, Beatrice, about the different types of learners. I'm much more of a visual, need to kind of have my hands on it and manipulate it and see it for myself. And so the more that I started interacting with the data, the more I was like, good Lord, like there are things that are severely wrong with this situation. And quite frankly, I should not be the one pointing this out to the defense, like where's the FBI? Where are the experts? Like, why in the world should, and nobody in Texas be the one that's pointing these things out? It baffles me. But then I found an old iPhone this week that I forgot that we even owned. That's when I really kicked up the experiments. So, the iPhone went into the freezer to see what the battery drainage would be. And the iPhone it's been nestled into 4 different Faraday bags, like one into the next, into the next, into the next.
Oh, wow.
I have tried
Faraday.
so many. I've tried putting it in a like an airtight container to see if the barometric pressure impacted its ability to calculate steps. That poor phone has been just knocked around like crazy. So it's been wild, but I do have 3 discoveries that I've kind of alluded to on Twitter recently. So like if you've been keeping up on Twitter, then you may have seen it, but 3 more things that have been discovered just since I've had access to the iPhone. And like you were saying, I can do the share if I can figure it out. Like you have been so kind to me. You speak of me as though I'm extremely knowledgeable and techie. And the truth of the matter is, like, I don't even know how to turn on the Xbox station. Like, I always have to have my daughter like get the remote, and I'm like, but just how do you make it put on Netflix, please? Like, I don't know
Well,
how to use this gamer controller to make the TV work. Like, come
well,
on.
let me say something about that, Grace, because
Sure.
there are a lot of detectives pre-21st century that did a lot of incredible work that had no technology whatsoever. So
True.
that's not necessarily the key
That is a good point.
that you have to be a tech genius to do a very analytical, experiment. Obviously, Arthur Conan Doyle.
Absolutely.
Was a scientist himself and had no tech but so I think that's what I'm speaking to when you do, not necessarily that but you've decided to analyze certain things about how the iPhone collects and transmits data, when it does so, how and when the Apple Watch, the model that he had, collects and transmits data to the phone. All these sorts of things are integral to understanding what happened, and people have not done that work. Certainly, obviously, the police didn't do it on purpose,
right?
But
Exactly.
but maybe the defense hasn't done some of that work.
Yeah, it's true, and I feel bad saying this because I know that this was an important thing that the defense hypothesized. But remember when they kind of walked Jen McCabe into the scenario about what do you do if you lose your phone? And I really don't think that she was expecting that question at all. And all of she'd been so hostile and so aggressive until that moment when it all fell away. And she seemed so genuinely puzzled that I thought, this means something. Like, to me, it was almost an indication that the defense was on the wrong trail in that moment because she wasn't being hostile and protective over it. And that's what really got me thinking, like, okay, even though it makes sense in this moment that she'd be trying to, call and track down the phone, I don't think that's what happened because her reaction was just so unusual compared to everything else that we'd seen from her. So then it was like, okay, well then what was happening to the phone? Like, if it wasn't Jen calling and trying to locate it, what was going on? And honestly, I think that what was happening was even easier than what we've hypothesized. I think that they were just trying to reset the timeline and trying to kind of act natural. Like, okay, well, what would you have done if he wasn't here? Oh, I guess I probably would have called him a couple times, maybe sent a few texts. Oh, good, do that. But then, like, I think that they kind of forgot how to act natural. Like it turned into too much, too excessively, and it made it look strange. But I think that there could have been a secondary gain of trying to drain his battery.
Interesting.
I think that because by then the phone was already out on the lawn. And that was what one of my experiments this week was demonstrating. Like, literally, is there any way to fool the accelerometer in the phone beyond, like, we know when you put your phone in a shopping cart or when it's in the baby stroller and it's rolling. And it's so frustrating when you don't get credit for all of your steps. And it's like, gosh darn it. Like, I just, walked 2 miles and now I'm not even getting the credit for it. And so, like, know that, there are ways that we can minimize, but are there ways that we can guarantee that there would not be a single stray step registered? I tried like 15 different experiments and nothing was foolproof. Absolutely nothing. So I feel like we have to conclude that when that phone went out the door at 12:31 and landed where it did, that was it. Like, the phone was out there until John's body was reunited with it. I don't think anything else could have happened. Like, I have crossed out every other thing that could have potentially impacted it.
A couple things they didn't take into account. For one thing is that if they were concerned with draining the battery, his battery was probably keeping the battery warm. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But what drains the battery more than the temperature to a certain point is the usage. If you have multiple tabs open and if you have multiple things that it's drawing on and
Right.
things it's doing, like if you're doing your posting on Twitter or Instagram or something like that,
Mhm.
and you have Facebook open and that's updating and that's giving you alerts
Right.
and messages. So that's what they didn't count on, is the lack of activity. The phone was their enemy. But they're so
Exactly.
stupid anyway. So that's,
Yeah. Well, and
par
that's
for the
the
course.
other thing. We saw through the messages that Karen and John were exchanging earlier in the day. John, he was very good about responding, but he was also very good about setting boundaries and limits. There became a point in the evening where he said, I've arrived at the bar. I'm turning off my phone. I'm not answering calls. Like, I'm going to focus on the people that are in front of me. So when there's someone who has that kind of attitude, it really shows that he probably is also not going to be engaging very much with the phone for the remainder of the night, and therefore his battery probably started out like pretty high. I think that it was probably pretty charged, like maybe 95% or thereabouts. So like you were saying, when the body rejoined the phone, and honestly, it is the most ironic thing, because it's like the worst thing that could have happened for the true culprits, because it did shield the phone and protect it from all that excessive drainage. But the thing of it is, why hasn't either the FBI or whomever is in charge of analyzing these phones, you can look and see how the drainage on the battery is like excessive, 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 from 12:30 to say 3:30 a.m. or whenever it was. And then once his body rejoins it, it's gonna, like drain less. The excessive draining is going to be reduced, and we're going to see that battery activity change. And to me, I'm like, well, geez, they can figure out, they have the info to figure out exactly when the body arrived on the lawn. Like, why haven't they? Or maybe they have and they just haven't told us, So
That's a good point.
Yeah, because we can't. I'm sorry, Bia. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Bia.
No, I just said that's a good point. Yeah, well
They've
said.
got to have it, right? I
We
mean,
can't. Yeah, we can't assume that they don't have it, because there's what is it? 1,074 pages that we have no idea what's in there, other than what.
3,074.
3,074.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
3,074. I
Even
was off
more,
by only
yeah.
2,000. I mean, come on,
That's
give
it.
or take 2,000. So, yeah, there's 3,000 pages of information that we have no idea what's in there. And also, do you remember that Meatball Morrissey? This has got to stop. I'm doing the Will Glare's impression of him, which I
Yeah.
love. Is that if you remember, he was emailing them to say, "Hey, what else have you guys got?" Trying to
Right.
troll, as if they were going to
Yeah.
give him something that would implicate him. Like,
Right.
Fat Boy, come on, man. You think these guys are stupid?
Seriously. Like, come on.
Yes. And so they likely have more information. Well, I shouldn't say likely. They most certainly have a lot more information on that phone. The fact
Yeah.
that the hash values, they know that Jennifer McCabe deleted that search and all those
Mhm.
sorts of things. So, yeah,
Well,
that's why.
and that's another thing. And I'm not an iPhone user, so playing around with this phone this week has been quite the adventure for me, because like I said, I'm not technologically inclined, and so I didn't know, like, is it easy to delete a call? Is it hard? Like, how, for somebody who's literally brand new to this interface, what's it going to take? Within like 5 seconds, I'd figured out how to delete calls. I mean, it was so ridiculously easy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the thing of it is, although it's true that it only displays the 100 most recent calls, if you delete, like I just deleted 5 calls, just bloop, 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 and it filled in with the 5 previous, like it backfilled
Yeah.
with the older calls. And so I was like, well, those aren't deleted. They're just not visible. So the idea that those calls had been marked as deleted from Jen, to me, either it's like a semantics, like I can't quite tell. There's something going on there, but I feel like we've been lied to about that, because
By
or like partially lied. Like, yes, the phone can only hold 100 numbers in the most recent calls. Like, that part is true, but they didn't continue the sentence on to say, however, you can still access everything else, and it's also not marked as deleted. Like, they're just being sneaky, I guess, is the best
yeah,
way to put it.
they are, and
Lots of
it makes you
sneakiness.
it makes you sick that they're trying to play defense. The whole
Yeah.
thing is so sick because they are playing defense attorney for the perpetrators.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And it's so unfortunate that the taxpayers of Massachusetts are now being forced to contribute to this witch hunt, like, financially, and then also having to, pony up money on the opposite side if they choose to donate to the defense fund. They're like having to contribute against their will to the persecution, and that doesn't sit well. That's not fair that they should have that on their shoulders. That's not justice.
And the
Right.
fact that the Celebrate report confirms all this information, and Celebrate is what's used
Yeah,
everywhere.
the gold
And all of
Industry
a
standard.
sudden, right. And now all of a sudden in this particular case, it's not reliable. Like, what's
Yeah,
up with that? Like, that shouldn't be a
exactly.
thing.
Well, and
So
it's like,
You can't,
that
why in the world would you want to destroy the reputation of Celebrite when you need it for the Lindsay Clancy case, when you need it for the
Walsh.
Brian Walsh
Brian
case?
Walsh.
Yep.
Like, what are you like? If I were any of Adam Lawley's colleagues, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you're messing up all of our cases with this.
And just to make one more point, why do we see that all of Karen's calls were not deleted and all of Jenny
Right?
Faith's were? Like, how, like, doesn't that just kind of give you more?
guilty.
Yeah, like, it's just very
Exactly.
strange that the
Mhm.
person who should theoretically, if it was true, should have been the one
Right.
deleting, never deleted any of them. So
Exactly.
just
And
very strange.
if Karen had made a search at 227, how long to die in cold?
Then Celebrate would be 100%.
Armageddon. Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
So I want to answer
So,
this.
yeah.
I want to answer this one for Valhalla Law. So Olivia Lambo at Olivia Lambo on Twitter is the authority for this, and she explained hash values on Sean McDonough's live that she did with him, which
I
was
remember that.
outstanding. I would love to get her on this show just because the work she's done is quite unique in our space because, like Grace, she has the ability to break down this complex information into an understandable way.
She's
So
good.
my understanding is they do not have a genuine extraction that has hash values for John's phone and for Jennifer McCabe's phone is my understanding. So what they got with the Celebrite report shows that it's been deleted, but they got that one guy, Ian Whiffen
Whiffen,
from Canada, to say, who used to work for them and now has his own company or whatever, to say that, oh yeah, it's not clear that she deleted those. So as far as the battery rate, I don't know. That would be a question that we can, and I will get back to you on that, Valhalla Law. I will ask Olivia that specifically. So if you message me on whatever medium on I'll put our email in the chat, but it's calling all beings the numeral 1 at Gmail. Calling all beings the numeral 1 at Gmail. And I'll try to get that answer because I think now now that Grace has brought it up, we kind of want to know about that. Let's get this other question that John had for you. Somebody read it out loud. Can you read it in your voice?
Is there any
love to hear
way?
you, dear.
Okay, let's see. Is there any way that they could get into John's personal phone and Ring camera from his work computer? That's a very good question. And that would be something that I feel like an iPhone person, an iPhone user would have more knowledge about. I'm a Ring camera user. I have never, and I've had a Ring camera since 2017. and I've never used a computer to log into it. And I wouldn't even know how. I've only had it on my phone, and I don't even know how to delete videos that it's recorded from it. I feel like the average user, I think it's completely like fantasy land for them to accuse Karen of never having interacted with Ring, and then to race up to John's office and to log into his computer and sign on to Ring and to delete the, like, how? Like, I've been a user of this program forever and I can't figure it out, and I've never logged in from a computer. How do we expect her to do that in 2 minutes? Like, it's not realistic. But could somebody with experience and access to his work computer, perhaps? I don't know.
And that's even saying that he downloaded on his work. I mean, I know like a lot of workplaces don't allow you to just download different
That's software. A good point. Yeah, they have firewalls and
right. Yeah. There's a block on external websites, only like employee approved, company approved websites. So I mean, that's also, and I think so. I have deleted videos from Ring. It is not that hard to do.
Okay.
However, because every time you go in to view like a live, you can see that it creates that, live view. It is fairly easy to delete, but again, it's if you use the app. I mean, I've only done it through the app, but I agree with you. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, that's a valid question. We just don't know that he had that downloaded on his work computer, if it was even allowed. But I think for most people, they use your iPhone is what you use.
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely.
Sua Sponte, that mirror feature that you're talking about, here, I'll button it up. The Sua Sponte, that right there, that feature obviously wasn't available 2 years ago. That's a newest. I don't know if it's iOS 15 or 16 that's available. So, but that's a good point. That's a good point. They would have had to get access. Because if you go on this line of thinking, then the FBI could have gotten Tom Kelleher's, but they would have needed a court order from a judge, and they would have had to have probable cause to try to get. And if they did get that, I mean, that would prove that John went in the house as a minimum.
Yeah,
that would have proved that Karen wasn't. So I think they would have already prevented this from happening if they had that level of proof. Would anybody disagree with that on the panel?
No, I mean, it is so hard to know. Is the FBI giving them enough rope to hang themselves? Like, I just keep wondering, is that why they're letting this go on as long as it is, to see just how far and how deep the corruption is? Are they just kind of letting them run with it and kind of dig their own graves, or what? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Bia, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we know that the FBI has a great success rate in, the work they do. So, but I mean, what's great about like what you do, and, it's really showing, simplifying things. And I think there's so many different things off of this main story that it's like, we need things to be simplified, and it's just amazing. Like, I can't say it enough. Like, the work you're doing, please keep doing it, and don't sell yourself short and say I'm not technical, because you are. It's just maybe not computer technical, but what you're doing is a technical thing, and you're showing a simplified version of, and things that maybe, I mean, the defense didn't think about, or maybe they did, and there's reasons why they didn't bring it up. But for us people that have analyzed this trial and all the facts, and it's amazing to see it visually.
Thank you.
Sorry if I ran off on a rant. Sorry.
No, I'm so grateful. I appreciate your feedback so much. I do.
I want to thank Train444. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Namaste. And we are going to get to your questions. So if you if you have a question, put a stat. We'll put a stat there, and we'll get back to it. And I think the question that you wanted to get my opinion on had to do with the FBI. Was that what it was? I think you
so,
were
yes.
asking me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, what I am thinking that their modus operandi is from other cases is that they will, obviously they have put their foot in the door here, and then they kind of remove their foot, and remove their foot meaning they let the trial go on. The jury came to a conclusion, and now there's going to be a re-prosecution because of the hung jury. So what I'm thinking that they're doing here is that they are going to allow these people, like supposedly Chris Albert responded to me and others on Twitter the other day.
Really?
People that believe is Chris Albert. And he said, I'm sitting here, I'm going outside, kick the ball around with my kids, or go in my pool. I'm waiting I keep hearing the feds are coming. When's that going to be, like 2030? I'm going to go enjoy myself. And then he took a shot at me in the show or something. Or I posted, one of my Air Force buddies came to town, and he said something, and I posted a photo of us right after the show. I beat feet last Sunday to go meet him for dinner. And he goes, who gives a F what you have to say, or something like that. So if I were them and I'm operate the way that they do, allow these people the grace to feel like they can just keep doing what they're doing. Let Jen McCabe keep texting police officers, keep intertwining DA Morrissey and Detective Tully and whomever else. Maybe there's other judges that they have, maybe they are up on his phone. I don't know.
Let's see how far and wide it goes.
Let's see how far that this can go, and how many people we can rope in under the guise of denying her civil rights and public corruption, of which they just arrested a person who's on the what was she on, the Massachusetts State Assembly?
What was that? Yeah.
Or Boston City.
Something.
I think Boston City Council.
He was a city councilor,
Yeah, Boston City Council. So I would think that they would allow this to continue and just see how far it goes, and how many people will just say, "Oh, we're not in danger. Let's just keep doing it."
Yeah,
Whereas you
let
see
him
Brian
get
Albert,
cocky.
you see Brian Albert, you don't hear a word from him. He doesn't come on Twitter. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't text anybody, call anybody. He reportedly, according to my sources in Canton, he uses a sat phone. And sat phones are super duper expensive, because he's afraid if he goes and he gets a burner that they're going to get up on that burner. So if he uses a sat phone, but every message and every call is quite expensive. So I think that's probably what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they're in the case, right? They show that they're in the case. They haven't arrested anybody yet, because they're not arresting somebody for murder. I mean, they don't have evidence that somebody murdered somebody that we know of. But they may have evidence that there's public corruption in terms of these absolute morons at the DA's office and in the state police department over there. And with the, that they're denying this woman her civil rights, because they gave him 3,000 pages of information, and pardon it, they gave the double bird and said, we're prosecuting her anyway.
Which is just ridiculous. It just, and you think to yourself, like, how can this happen in our country? And, I feel like, and I just recently made a post on Twitter about this, we start to tell ourselves, okay, well, she won't, there's no way she can get convicted. There's no way. And yet Sandy Melgar here in Texas was in a very similar situation and was convicted without any physical evidence and a boatload of exculpatory evidence. And they still convicted her. And to this day, she remains in prison. Not even Kathleen Zellner could get her sorted out. And this is a woman who'd had a double hip replacement and rheumatoid arthritis. She was confined to a wheelchair most of the time, and sometimes a cane. And they're trying to say that she murdered her husband, like by stabbing him to death. And yet she had no no defensive wounds on herself and no blood on her, and had somehow locked herself in the closet and tied herself up. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever, you know?
God,
Like,
you brought up like 3 cases on the phone with me that that I could not believe. And Grace had pointed out like 3 cases, like, and said these people were convicted. And I was like, what? When she told me the story. What I want to say about this case that, oh, look who's just come into the studio. It's Hera. Hera,
hey,
you,
Hera.
my daughter, do not belong in here. You've eaten all the other cats' food, and now you look like 3 chubby Black Panthers instead of 1. Right.
In a trench coat.
Okay, so this is the thing. First of all, before I talk about what I think and why, let's Beatrice, can you please give a shout out right here?
If anyone who ambulance driver, super sticker. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the $20, like Mike Proctor. I really appreciate you. That is extremely, extremely kind and generous. And you guys are generous. Like they are, man. They're like amazing. So
generous.
Let me take the ticker off just because it's bothering me. It's going right across of Grace's earbuds there. All right. So what I think is going to happen if this trial actually comes off the next time is I think it will be another hung jury. People that think she's going to be acquitted, I do not see that. No way, no how. Now, what am I basing that on? First of all, I'm basing it on America because we can't agree on anything. I look up, I say the sky's blue, and someone says, I don't know. It looks teal to me. So if we can't agree on anything there, so that's one reason. So just the nature of America, no matter how great a case they put on, the New York lawyer and the guy from California who's really from Texas, Alan Jackson, there are people that are just gonna not like them the way that Bev does, these towny type morons. Because it really doesn't matter. They could be from Pluto. It doesn't matter if they have the evidence and all the behaviors. A prosecution would absolutely destroy every single McAlbert in this case, obviously Jen McCabe and others, because of all the guilty. The police would just rip them apart with all the guilty behaviors. Why did you do this? That sounds like totally guilty behaviors to us. But because they're friendly with them, and because Bev rented a house to the Nagels on the Cape, they just let it all go. So that's one thing. The other thing is that clearly the Alberts are going to go into court. They're going to ID these people. And all that has to happen is literally Brian pull up in his little Toyota Tacoma outside Stop and Shop where Kelleher and some of the jurors clearly shop, and then just sit there and look at them as they come out with their shopping cart. That's it. That's sit there.
Real witness intimidation.
That is without doing anything. Just sit there and eyeball one of these jurors, and they're going to get the verdict they want because he's going to say, I know who you are. And not to mention, John Fanning was at the court. Detective Fanning, you think he doesn't know those names? You think Brian Albert doesn't know those names?
Have you seen the video? I've done 2 videos about Fanning, but did you see the second one that I did about Fanning?
Wait, we gotta get these here. Yes, go ahead. No, please. Talk to me.
So I have 2 videos about Fanning, and the second one, it is disturbing. Like, it is really like, and I've even put a content warning on it. Like, only watch this video if you don't have too tender of a heart, because some of the stuff that he has allegedly done is so terrible that it will haunt you. It will haunt the back corners of your mind forever. It's the kind of stuff you can't forget. And the fact that he still is in power right now and has the power to do the things that he's doing is very problematic.
We've gotten a litany of these, and we want to say tonight, for equity, we've gotten way too many Beatrice is beautiful and not enough DJ's beautiful. So we got to balance this out here.
Don't be hating.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Beatrice and I've been planning this for like 2 weeks. I'm like, we need more DJ's beautiful. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. All right, let's get to some, because there's so much good stuff here. Let me see. So Dallas
So
has
Grace, are
something
you
here.
referring to some of the stuff in Florida that has come out? Is that what you're
Yes.
referring to?
When he was on vacation, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just want to
spacing
make
out.
no, that's all
Yes.
right. Just want to make sure we're
Yes.
on the same page.
And yeah, there was the Florida stuff, but then the major thing that I'm thinking of what he did to the Florida friend, I think
Yes.
that happened back in Massachusetts. And whenever I picture that situation, I think of my dad in the role of the Florida friend, and I picture someone doing that to my dad, and it just makes me want to cry and never stop. Like, just the abuse of power is unbelievable, disgraceful, and it makes you worry for his own children, you know?
Just listening to Jen McCabe gives me the emotion you just described. Like, I literally can't listen to her. I can't, because there's something about the lying that she does. I can't make it through her testimony.
Yeah.
It's that bad. But anyway, would you read this one, Grace?
Grace, you have alluded to a medium. Is there anything you can share about that? Do they confirm or disprove your theories? DJ, are you comfortable with me speaking briefly, vaguely about that?
Yeah. I mean, we can qualify, but I mean, you point out some things that you believe that she could not have known, like the headstone and other things. So please, yes, ma'am.
So, the medium that I booked a session with, her name is Rochelle, and she has a channel called The Psychic Sleuth, and I've been, kind of keeping track of her for a few years, and she has done some really powerful things, like some things where it's just like, wow, like, how did she know that that was exactly where that body would be located, or exactly that this person would be found safely, or I mean, just all kinds of different things. In fact, during the session that she and I had, she was telling me about Hana Kobayashi. This was during the time when Hana Kobayashi was still missing and everyone was really worried about her. And in that session, she said, I keep seeing Hana Kobayashi on a beach. Someone is putting a blanket around her, and I feel like that's a symbol that she's safe. But I'm really hesitant to speak out about that because I don't want to give people false hope that she's safe if it turns out that she's not. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, wouldn't you know, Anna Kobayashi resurfaces and she's safe. And I'm like, golly, Rochelle, how do you do this? And the other thing, like another example during the session, it was the night before Thanksgiving when I spoke to her. She kept saying, someone is going to be pulled out of the Charles River. It's going to be made to look like a drowning. It's going to be made to look like a suicide. Keep your eyes peeled on the news. Someone is going to be pulled out of a river. And she said it a couple times throughout. And then it was one of the final things that she said at the very end of the conversation. And I tried to Google a little bit, but then I kind of forgot about it until the other night. Somebody sent a super chat into Turtle Boy. Were you guys watching when this happened?
No.
He starts reading this super chat that talks about how, it looks like a body was pulled out of the Charles River today. And it, looks like it might be a self-offing, but it might have something to do with the police. And it was like verbatim what Rochelle had said. And I was like, goodness. So, the thing of it is, I went into the session when I booked the session with her. I think that I was being a little bit like selfishly curious. Like I just really wanted to know, I wasn't testing her abilities. I already had trust in her. I wasn't, withholding any information to see like, is this real? Is it not? I'd watched enough of her to believe that she has some sort of gift. And so I was, trying to close gaps when possible. And there was one particular point, there were a few things that I didn't even realize until after the fact, that even were connections, like the headstone, because she kept saying throughout the entire session, I feel like I'm in a movie. This feels like a movie. I feel like I'm in a movie. And then lo and behold, on John's headstone, it says it's only a movie, or it's just a movie,
It's
something
all a
like that,
movie,
where I
or
was like,
yeah.
what? And I mean, I feel like I've been immersed in this case and I didn't know that detail. So it's like, how would she have, like, how would she have known?
She couldn't have
So
known that one. I
yeah,
shouldn't say
so there
couldn't,
was,
but there's
yeah,
just a
yeah,
0.00001%.
yeah. And then like there were a few other things, but the one thing that really challenged me was I had an idea about how things had gone down. I was very proud of my idea. Like, I had it worked out. Like, I was like, okay, I think what they did was, they went up the bulkhead steps. They probably put him on a tarp because, that would prevent the phone from registering steps, because, the shopping cart at Target doesn't register steps if you're sliding. And it would make sense because they'd cover up, like, the weight of the body would erase the steps in the snow. And, so I had this really elaborate plan. And I asked her, I was like, are you seeing a tarp? And she's like, no. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you're not seeing anybody? Are you sure you're not seeing anyone come up out of the bulkhead stairs? And she's like, nope. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Like, and she was adamant that it happened differently. And I was like, well, geez, like, back to the drawing board, because I mean, she was just so solid about that not being how it happened. And a few other details. And I was like, well, I mean, I've gotta rethink this. And so it forced me to think of new ways that the pieces could fit together. But a lot of what she said was so personal about Karen and John that even though I have the recording, I don't feel comfortable just putting it out there, because it just I wanted Karen to have it. And DJ, I'm so grateful to you for helping to get the video to Karen, because I wanted her to know that John knows that she didn't have anything to do with it, that John is proud of her strength, that John wishes that he had honored her, had seen and honored her strength more in this lifetime when he had the opportunity to. And that sense of feeling like he underestimated her, like that, all of that is so powerful that I felt like that I don't want to enrich myself from turning this beautiful moment into content. Like, this is something that needs to go to the person that will cherish it the most, So
I literally have chills after you just said, like, I keep wiggling. I literally have chills coming.
Yeah, hold up, man. Let's get this done right here.
And that's what's great about this, because you could, put it out there, but you're choosing not to out of respect.
Wait, let me turn it off. Sorry. There you go.
I know. It's loud.
Well, and honestly, for the Justice for Enrique movement, I almost feel like someone should set up a private consultation with Rochelle for that, because I think, I mean, given her track record, she comes up with great details. And I think that would really force the hand of the state to kind of expedite what they're willing to reveal to the public if the public starts asking very pointed questions. Rochelle has gotten names before. She got Richard Allen's name a full 6 months before he was arrested. She's gotten other names. She got Quentin Simon's full name before he was born, and the fact that his demise would end up in a landfill. She's really good, so she may be able to get a name for who harmed Enrique, and wouldn't that scare the pants off the MSP if the public
Yes.
came to them and said, "Tell us more about this person." You know, like what do we need to know about this situation?
That
I
would
know.
be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
In regard to this, so this could be like Jen McCabe right here that's tweeting in. Do you know this to be true or not true?
This is, it's one of those things where, okay, so the most recent video that I did talked a lot about GPS and the flaws with GPS. And one thing to keep in mind is back when everyone was using satellite TV, you never saw a dish direct TV mounted in someone's basement. You know, the directions are pretty clear that it needs to be in the southern facing sky. It needs to be unobstructed in a place where there's not snow and ice. There are so many things that get in the way of a GPS signal, including the weather itself. So what happened on that night is that by just sort of happenstance, I feel like through a series of unfortunate events, we have documentation that the GPS was lagging behind Karen and John's actual locations, because remember, it had them on like Pinecone Road and like all of this. We were getting weird signals, and that happens when there's something called multipath multipath interference, or something to that effect.
Mhm.
And or multi-signal something or other. And the weather itself can create these conditions because the snow particles are sort of diluting the strength of the signal and
GPS
slowing it
signal.
down.
Yep.
So I think that what ended up happening is, by the time John and Karen arrived at Fairview, the GPS signal, it hadn't caught up with them, but by the time it did catch up, John was already inside the house and he was already on his way down to the basement. So the GPS satellites can't penetrate into the house, and certainly not into the layers of concrete that create a basement. So it had lost track of him, but the phone resurfaced outdoors at 12, 12:31, 12:32, and boom, everything lined back up. So it kind of made him invisible for those moments. And we can use the data that we have to demonstrate that that's how it happened. The statement, "GPS data shows John O'Keefe never entered the house," is sort of accurate, but that's because the GPS data was broken. So that's
The signal
what
signal
they're
is
saying is a true statement, but it's because there was a problem. There was a malfunction.
so the signal is being the signal is being corrupted by both the atmospherics
Mhm.
at play and the fact that he had entered the home, and those two things conspired. What she's not
Exactly.
talking about is the accelerometer that had him ascending and descending stairs, which, as she said earlier, would not happen if it was in a shopping cart. So that's your issue. If you're on the side of Karen's not guilty, you got two issues. One is when the phone resurfaced, Karen was already at home, logged into the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi at his house. So
Yep.
clearly she didn't hit him Kimmy loves and stuff. And the GPS data is not being relied on due to the lag that she referred to, which is
There's
a
too many
product of the
problems. Yeah.
atmospherics and him going inside the house. So you have to,
Really, yeah. Like
yeah.
when we look at
So
the data, we have to. It's tough because, I mean, think about in your own house. Sometimes the time on the microwave is different from the time on the clock in your room, which is different from the time in your car in the garage. It's all a little bit different. So we have to find the greatest amount of data that is coming from a source that is stable and standardized. And that in this case is the iPhone data, because we can look at Jen's iPhone data and look at John's iPhone data and say, okay, we're getting overlapping here. The start of the call is documented here and also here. So, okay, we can now extend that to this is at least reliable against itself. And then all the other data points that we have, like the GPS, other the CCTV timestamps from the bar, to me, those they inform us about sequence, but they don't inform us about the true time that it happened. It just sort of helps us to straighten out like the order of, okay, first this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. But we can't, quite bring it down to a timestamp minute in a reliable sense because it's not standardized against the iPhone data. The iPhone data is really it's the only guarantee that we, the public, have in terms of trying to sort things out.
And just to add something to that, that little circle that they had in regards to it did cover the house. Like it was within range of the house.
Right.
And you know what I thought was weird too is that how they focus on the Waze. Waze is an app that we use to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Like that was just to kind of trick the jury into, the Waze said this. And that's not
exactly. And it's almost fully dependent on GPS, which was
the issue to begin with.
Night. Yeah.
Well, it's using cellular connectivity to access a Jeep. So there's a third interloper there. It's the cellular signal. If you turn off your cell signal, you cannot use Waze. It is not global positioning system transmitter to receiver in your car. It is you're going up to the cellular, wherever your cellular uses, and that satellite is linking into GPS to tell you where you are. So there's a whole process in there that doesn't happen. I'd like if Beatriz could read this one from sua sponte, our favorite Latin phrase.
Excuse me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fanning was on the Farwell case and Guarino reported to Farwell. It was Farwell that accepted that they were no texts found.
That's my understanding as well.
No, cannot be the case because Guarino was a state trooper and Farwell was not. He was a Stoughton police officer. So we've got a factually incorrect right there, unfortunately.
Wait, what? No. Wait. No.
Okay, Guarino did not report to Farwell because Guarino was a state trooper. Farwell was not.
Oh, okay. You know what? I felt like that was a typo. You're right. As it is written right now, it is a factually incorrect statement. I felt like the reported to Farwell was a typo and it was supposed to say reported to Fanning.
Okay.
And
there you go. Good call. Yep.
And I think that if you replace
look at that, she's breaking it down live.
So I think both of the first Farwell was a Farwell, but I think that the second two were supposed to be Fannings. And if you replace that with Fanning, then it becomes a true statement.
Oh,
and
wow.
I bet you,
this happened right in front of us.
Christ, you've got to get together, your Farwells and your Fannings, for God's sakes, man. All right, we have more questions that I've starred, but this one is from Christina Rasmussen.
Okay, for the panel, do you think that there was jury tampering or juror misconduct in the KR case? Who wants to answer it first?
I think you guys go first and I'll go last.
Nothing surprises me. I do think is a little suspect that he was in charge of the jury and driving them there. And he's also the one that reported that there was one of the jurors that got kicked off had been seen talking about the case at a restaurant, and then she gets kicked off. So, I mean, I just think nothing surprises me, but how crazy is that he had access to the very people that were going to make the decision on this case?
Yeah. No, I agree. That is extremely suspicious. And to add to that, we know already that there's juror misconduct. Like, and I still don't understand why this juror is speaking publicly. He spoke to the M whatever.
Phelps. Yeah.
William
Yes.
Phelps.
He went on the record about this. What he did directly defies the rules of jury selection. He moved. He did not update his driver's license with his current address. He was therefore not a resident of the county. He had absolutely no business being on that jury, and he's talking about it. Like I'm like, what, buddy? Why are you advertising that you're in violation of the policies? I mean, when you look at what it takes to be qualified for jury duty, that's like the top thing. And it even says, what if I move and haven't changed my license? What do I do? And it says, you are not eligible to serve on a jury. You need to get your stuff straightened out. Like, it's right on their website. It's right there. So that in itself was juror conduct that the juror seems to be advertising to anyone with ears. I just don't get it. But I mean, there's more. There's, in addition to umpteen other instances. But yeah, that to me, that's the one where I'm like, what are you doing? It almost feels like if it wasn't already a mistrial, it was almost as if the plan was to maybe use that as like, oh, whoops, we just discovered that one of the jurors was, not a resident. Like if it already hadn't been a mistrial, so that they could toss it out if it didn't go their way. Like, it just felt like a kind of like, what's the expression about like an ace in the back pocket or like something like that? Like kind of a hidden.
A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I don't know.
I don't know. It felt like somebody was kind of holding back an opportunity to benefit from that knowledge.
This is from Ken Hathaway from Nottingham, England. Grace is spot on with everything. Superb work, my dear.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
He is a true blue, calling all beings listener, part of our family. Awesome. Thank you. And Sua Sponte, thank you so much, love.
Yay.
Wait, is this going to be another Beatrice's? No, it's not. This this is a great question, and I still haven't answered the other one, but go ahead, Bea.
So I was in contact with his mom this week. I sent her a text just to, say hello, check in with her, because we had the standout last Saturday out in Worcester, or I should say Worcester. So I definitely, I wanted to, check in with her, and I just feel like right now, they're not really open to anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I know some people have reached out with great suggestions, and it's not to knock down anybody's, good suggestions. But I feel like from my conversations with the family, it's almost like they want to just follow their attorney's advice right now, whether we think is right or wrong, or we have other opinions. They just want to follow what their attorneys are saying. And for the mother, I feel that because she's the one that hired this attorney and they're telling her to keep quiet, and that's what she's doing. But like the aunt was very vocal. I did several interviews with the mainstream media, and her aunt was like, I have nothing to hide. I have, I want to talk about my nephew. My family's lost. This was, he was, quote unquote, this is what she said. He was assassinated. Like,
yes, he was.
Sorry, DJ, go ahead. I didn't mean to go on.
The question I was going to ask is, do you think she'd be open to the psychic? Is what
I also thought about that as you were saying. So I feel like religion-wise, and again, I can't really speak. I don't know exactly the religion, but if I was to make an assumption based on what I know, based on my conversations, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's almost like at this point, you're walking a fine line with this family because they know what, like, they're not that out there looking for advice. That's the thing. Right. A lot of people want to give them advice on what they should be doing, what they but they're not really out there asking for that. They just want
Yeah.
people to stand there with them and give and show their support and spread the word
Mhm.
is the message that I kind of get from them.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I want to say for the lawyer, I think their lawyer sucks. Empirically, their lawyer absolutely sucks, and the reason why he sucks or she is because the lawyer did not stop them from the state police and from performing that ceremony, which I'm sure they paid for, and burying the body. They had to have insisted on an independent forensic pathologist to do a forensic examination of his body when the flesh was all intact. Every day that passes as his flesh rots, the evidence is melting away. So the state police are going, this is good for us. So their lawyer sucks, gave them crappy advice because they should have made sure. I don't care if you got to take out a loan on your house. You get the money, you get an independent, out of state, unconnected to these idiots like that did Sandra Birchmore that fudged that paperwork for her. I don't even remember what her name is, Martinez something, and screwed that up. And because those two independents that came in clearly were able to figure out what the hell that her hyoid bone was broken. Both of them came to the same conclusion.
And
So,
I did let the mom know this week that about the example with Sandra Birchmore, because again, when I'm out there talking to the family, we're holding the signs that have all the victims on it. And I have gone through each and every victim, told them the backstory and how all these cases are connected. I did mention as an example to her, for instance, with Sandra Birchmore, initially the medical examiner determined it was a self-harm. And then, after an independent investigation, it was determined that it was not a self-harm and this was done to her. I'm just trying to be careful with all the YouTube rules. So, but
no,
yeah,
I'm just,
I am,
she,
what I mean? So I have reached out and, I just feel like at this point, they're really not asking for help. They just want to do it their way. So they're not really, I don't want to say they're not receptive. They're receptive to the love and support, prayers, answers. And every time they just reiterate, we just want answers. We want to know the truth.
And like I think I have a theory about this, that if you believe in spiritual mediums, then this information came to us directly from John O'Keefe with regard to Peggy's attitude about everything, and the idea that John was explaining that she trusts the police because John himself was a good cop. Like, if my son is a good cop, then cops are good people. She's generalizing that, that therefore cops are good and I can trust them, and therefore this is the side I need to align myself with. It could be generational. It could be, just sort of informed by her own personal experience and her, love and respect for him. And unfortunately, it's kind of swinging around to kind of bite her in the butt right now. But I wonder if the same could be extended to Enrique's family, in the sense of they know that Enrique was a good police officer and a good, honorable person. And so they're extending that same honor, I guess, to the people around him. And therefore they're being a little bit too trusting of the process and of the people in authority. Like, just undue honor, honor that hasn't been unearned.
And the vibe I got too. Oh, sorry, DJ. Go ahead.
In this situation that we've faced this in the UFO community, when you are trying to mess with someone's worldview, people have a view of what the world is. And this is the difficulty that people who understand and know that there are non-human intelligences that not only are visiting Earth now, but have been doing so for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, since since the Bible was written and it was spoken about in the Bible. And since the Romans were marching around with, the sandals and the shields and the whole 9 yards, okay? So if you tell somebody, hey, you know what? Not all police are good. They're going to go, don't mess with what my view of the world is. My view of the world is police are good, they don't lie, and criminals are bad.
Yeah, we kind of surround ourselves with what we're almost like only what we're willing to handle in that moment.
If you go back to listen to the episode of Calling All Beings we did on Tuesday a week ago, when we had the old cab crew back with Nathan and Deb and Courtney, and Scott McGinnis asked Nathan, he says, I believe that UFOs are all demons. And so I said, oh, how perfect that Nathan and Scott are in the same chat on the same live at the same time. Nathan, not only was the son of a pastor, not only was a youth pastor, he got his master's in divinity and went to a biblical college and got his master's degree. So he's very well placed to speak about this.
Yeah.
And he went through all that about lenses. And when you have a certain lens, I'm looking through the world that law enforcement is good. If they say you did it, more than likely, except for a few strange things, you probably did it. And unfortunately, people have to accept the fact that in my business, in the military, and in government, we have dishonest people that will lie, that would see you killed and not blink an eye about it, and the police do as well. And they're like a cousin of ours. We both have, we swear oaths and all those kinds of things, whereas civilians don't necessarily do that, but that's the reality of it. So let's take a look at, let's get back to this right here, because people have some questions about the next question right below this goes to one of your investigations. But Bev picked the foreman and only 3 FKR were alternatives, right? And that is the problem, is that they did an assessment. First of all, what was Fanning doing there? Why was he interacting with the jury when they have bailiffs that do that are paid to do that? The second thing is the one guy, as Turtle Boy reported on his show, is that the jury foreman joined anti-Karen Reed groups within days on Facebook after the trial. So there's that. And then it was said how he was telling people that only he could communicate with the judge, and he was sort of exercising some level of undue control over the other jurors that he shouldn't.
When he himself had a personal history of being the victim in a police, in his capacity as a police officer, being the one who was vehicularly hit on the job. I mean, I don't even know how he squeaked in the first place to be on the jury. Yeah.
Well, it's a negotiation, right? When you're doing jury selection, you're not going to get everything you want, and the prosecution's not going to get everything they want. So, all right, this next one goes right to you.
Oh, okay. Thoughts about location of Higgins' infamous Jeep vehicle. Yeah. Okay. So there has been so much speculation. I feel like I've heard so many conversations about Higgins' Jeep, and specifically the plow, and when he plowed the driveway and why he plowed the driveway. And everybody's trying to figure out what's going on with the plow. I think that the plow was a distraction and a lie from the beginning. I don't know that the plow was even present that night, because I believe that whatever vehicle he was driving was concealed at Kelleher's, based on the trajectory of the beeline and based on just kind of looking at the trees and what's going on at Kelleher's property, and the fact that Higgins claims to have departed the house at basically the exact time that John and Karen were allegedly out there at that exact spot. Like, what is he doing? But here's the thing about the plow. Like I said, I've heard so many people say, oh, he was plowing away footprints. What footprints? There was no snow yet. That doesn't make sense. I think that what happened was he came up with the plow lie because he needed to explain why he didn't see it. Like, the first lie was, well, I was parked at the mailbox, and that lie was to cover the fact that he wasn't. And then it's like, oh, well, if you were parked at the mailbox, then why didn't you see the body? I mean, right when you turned on your, lights, you would have been right there. Oh, well, I was bent over. See, my plow was down and I had to bend over. And so I wasn't actually looking. And it's like, well, why was your plow down? Oh, well, I was plowing Brian Albert's driveway. Well, but it hadn't snowed yet. Oh, well, I was being silly. It was an inside joke. Like, I feel like the whole thing was built backwards just because he came up with a fast lie initially, and now he had to like support it and support it and support it. Like, I don't think that he did a sweep of the driveway. I don't think that happened at all. I don't even know if the plow was on the vehicle, quite frankly. Like, I think that it was just an excuse as to why he couldn't have seen the body as he was driving away from the mailbox. So, like, none of it was true, in my opinion.
The best place people to come up with those stories is somebody who's a police officer, because they know those things that are going to be asked. And we have more questions for you guys, so just hang on. Let me just get to, because Christine Mitchell showed up from Manchester. So here we go. We have not seen her. Let me see. I'm going to see what we can do. Let's see. Hello, Christine Mitchell from Manchester. I can't be arsed, love. I missed you all. Been very poorly, but I'm on the road to recovery. So nice to see you all. Christine, I hope you feel better, love. I didn't know that you were illin, but we missed you because I haven't been able to do the Manchester. I'm just kidding. But let me know how you're doing and what's going on, because you can, you got my YouTube plus in the Calling All Beings 1, Calling All Beings the number 1 at Gmail if you want to holler. So, but I'm glad you're feeling better, love.
Yeah.
Yep. What do we got here? We got another question for you. And we have lots, but so Beatrice, how about this one?
See, this part of the story, I feel like I do believe. Like, I feel like there was not really to make this second the facts of the case part stick. I don't feel that they needed to come up with this plan that they went to a funeral, because we know that typically cops do this. This isn't out of the norm. They turn it into an all-day event, and there was snow. So I actually do believe that this part was actually true. I don't really see a reason to make this part up. But it just adds to the fact that they were probably maybe, drinking all day and had been partying and that part. But I don't really feel like that they would need to lie about that.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I think the lie was probably more like maybe 10 minutes at the funeral, 3 hours at a bar kind of thing. Like, just up to mischief, like just kind of showing face at the funeral as an excuse to have a paid day off from work.
Yeah. Yes.
Like that would be the deception.
Driving drunk because we can. Hera, don't you be grabbing me. Hera's trying to grab me. Go ahead. Grace, this is for you, my friend.
Okay. Did you ever find data correlating that Jennifer went into the house that discredits John's didn't? Yes. Well, okay. Yes and no.
You put John in the house.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Put John in the house. Put John in the house. Yep. Here's the scoop with Jen McCabe being in the house. Jen McCabe's heart rate data had a lot of mysterious stuff going on with it. It was unusually low at times when it should be much higher. It was high during times when it should be much lower. And one of the things that came out of that was that if the watch can't get a good read on your skin because your skin is too cold, then it's going to read kind of artificially low because it's not getting that good solid reading. So Based on that, when you look at her heart rate data from midnight to about 10 a.m., you can see there are points where it's like, wow, it's really, really super duper low here. Yet we know that she was out socializing. We know where she was at this point. She must have been outside. We also know that the forefront steps at the Alberts is not enough of an elevation change to register any floor like increase in the altitude. So she could have been scurrying around in and out of the house and getting cold and not having enough time to like warm up to get a good solid reading on her heart rate. To me, I feel like when you combine the kind of the absence of the data or the extra low data with times when it's higher, it's like, okay, she must have been warm here, cold here, warm here. It feels like it's showing us that she's going in and out of the house. Hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense in here, but it doesn't leave my mouth in a very
that sounds like
way.
me on every show. So and what did but you had her between the hours of when she would have gotten home or those hours after John's death, what do you have on that heart rate?
So her what I did was I determined the urgency of her pace by dividing the number of steps across time to basically get a speed at which she was walking. And it was incredible to me that the urgency of her steps was far greater between like 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. than it was when she was actually out searching for John and finding John. Like,
wow.
I mean, that's like, good God, like
wow.
you'd think that the most urgent time would be running around frantically trying to find him at his house, where there was no indication that she ever actually went upstairs the way that she claimed that she did on the witness stand. But then also, like, even when she was on the scene, you can see Karen and Carrie, frantically pacing and running around and bebopping around. And Jen is really not. Like, she is not behaving in a way that is consistent with that urgency.
The surprise
that you do see between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Like, what in the world is going on at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. where there's an absence of clear heart rate? So we know she's outside and we know that the urgency is there. She's moving around, scurrying around like a little rat. So, something's going on,
Perfect analogy. And the thing that's interesting there is that the lie is that when Karen absolutely freaks out and jumps out of the car, at that point, the person laying on the lawn has been ID'd.
Yeah.
If that person were someone who wandered from the local train station in Canton and fell on the lawn, likely Karen would not have freaked out the way that she did.
Exactly.
And gone and was screaming and screaming at Carrie and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the lie right there, of which Jen is such a prolific, if ineffective liar, as I call her on Twitter, is that she knew that was O'Keefe, and yet both times she got on the phone with 911, she didn't ID O'Keefe.
Yeah.
But she knew based on Karen's reaction that it was O'Keefe, and she still lied.
Exactly. Well,
we can't prove that, but we know it.
But there is something that we can prove. Remember earlier I said that there were three different experiments that I had conducted this week. One thing that I kept hearing people say is that Jen's the steps on Jen's phone and watch paralleled that of what occurred on John's phone starting at 6:04 a.m. And of course, I have all my spreadsheets and I'm looking and I'm like, why are people saying that? Like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, it's not working out. And so I'm like, okay, but something had John's phone going. And so I, crossed off a list of possibilities, and I already kind of had it in my mind that it had something to do with CPR. So I conducted an experiment 6 different ways by using a really firm pillow and kind of nestling the phone under the firm pillow, um and to do proper CPR, it is forceful. You need to break ribs. And so
Yes.
for this experiment, I gave it everything that I had. I mean, I did 100 compressions through the pillow with the phone underneath it, with the phone face down and with the phone face up. And I checked it, no steps. And I'm like, well, that's weird, kind of a disappointment. But I was like, okay, maybe it's because the pillow is too soft. John has a rib cage. So I got one of my baby's like board books, and I put that. So now the layer was, very firm pillow, baby's board book, phone, and then I had a folded towel to kind of represent the ground, just to give a little bit of
cushion.
Give a little bit of cushion, but like not a tremendous amount. And same thing. Really, I was out of breath. I was literally out of breath after all these experiments because I was trying to be so forceful. I did it with the phone facing down and with the phone facing up. No steps recorded. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I thought, what if Carrie found the phone earlier than she claimed on the stand? So I went and I put on a coat and I put the phone in the pocket, did 100 forceful compressions, and it logged the steps. And I put it in the other pocket, same thing, 100 more forceful compressions. And it's because the coat was swinging and it was banging against my thigh, but the coat being open and swinging was giving the acceleration that had been lacking in the original compressions. So I thought, okay, but why would Carrie lie on the stand? So I went back and watched her testimony. And the way that Adam Lawley phrased the question was so odd. He was like, and then, did you happen to see anything when the paramedics were lifting the body from the ground? Like it was leading. It was so clear what he wanted her to say. And knowing that she has a reputation as a talker, I feel like somebody had told her ahead of the trial, like, don't insert your own opinion, only answer yes or no, only like keep it brief, keep it limited. And I feel like she knew what he needed her to say. And then get this, I reviewed the testimony even further, and he went on to ask her, what part of John's body was the phone under? And she said, well, like kind of his shoulder. And Lolly said, shoulder, or do you mean like lower back? Do you mean lower back? And she was like, shoulder or back or shoulder or but like by the time Lolly got done pressing her on it, she was like, yeah, I think it was probably middle of his back. Like her testimony changed before our eyes.
Yeah.
Because Lolly had an idea of where he needed the conversation to go. Yeah, it was so manipulated and so like prompted. And so I thought, no, imagine finding your dear friend on the ground. The last thing that you're lodging in your memory is at what point you found the phone and put it in your pocket. Like that's not what's important right now. Saving your friend's life is what's important. Like she's not going to have a specific memory of that. They created that memory. And I think that out of all of the witnesses, I felt like she was one who was genuinely impacted by the loss. I felt her responses seemed to be sincere, that she was trying to be cooperative with both the defense and the prosecution. Like she really seemed to be trying to just give everybody as true of statements as she could in the moment. There didn't seem to be any of what we saw out of Jen McCabe and others. There wasn't that hostility and that pushback and that attitude. So I don't think she was trying to mislead anybody, but I think that phone went into her pocket almost instantly.
Wow.
Because the only thing that could recreate that exact amount of steps in that exact amount of time was the phone in the coat pocket with those forceful compressions. It was crazy. So,
chills again. I have chills. Sorry.
I'm telling you, man, she's killing it. Bea, can you do Jen McCabe on the stand when she professes her love and friendship for John? Go ahead.
Oh, about the man passed out on the lawn.
No, not that one. When she goes, That's a good one, friend.
He was my friend.
I
loved him.
Can somebody give me a tissue?
If that's love, I don't want it.
I know, right? Like, goodness.
I know. If there's that kind of love, we don't need war. What kind of example
is she setting for her children about what love is?
Yeah.
The Calling All Beings official attorney, Valhalla Law, says, can you read this one, Grace?
Have folks watched Sergio Denaro. He clicked high sensitivity about the funeral, the trip back, and BH and BA hanging out in the afternoon. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all that there would be high sensitivity about that. I think that, like I said, I think there was deception happening, but I don't think it had anything to do with John at that time. I think that they were just off doing naughty things on the clock that they shouldn't have, like they were just squandering the opportunity to do what they were supposed to be doing. I would imagine, because the thing I've noticed, people have asked me a lot about Sergio lately. I think that he is really good at identifying the sensitivity and analyzing the language. And I've noticed that his identification skills seem to be stronger than his interpretation skills. Like, he's spot on in nailing it. But when it comes to piecing together what it means, it feels like sometimes like he's just a little bit off, like to the left or to the right of what we know actually happened. So I think he's very good at detecting the sensitivity and educating us all about the language. It's certainly got me thinking about what things I say that could be perceived as as deceptive. Like God forbid I ever die and anyone analyzes what I've said. Like, because there's so many nuanced things that we don't even realize.
Does this one ring with you, Beatriz or Grace?
Oh, no one saw the Jeep but Jen and Matt.
I have thoughts about that. Do you guys have any thoughts?
You can go ahead. No, we want to hear your thoughts.
No, I'm not smart enough.
So there are two white Jeeps involved, despite the fact that Higgins said on the stand that his Jeep was gray in color when everyone else testified that it was white. And also we have photos of it in his driveway and it is white. It is white. But Allie McCabe may have been driving her mom's white Jeep that night. I think that's a 4-door. Higgins' Jeep is a 2-door. I feel like there are competing interests about the idea of a Jeep. And I feel like Higgins was trying to say, well, his Jeep was gray. His Jeep has a plow. So if you happen to see a white Jeep on camera anywhere in town, it's not him. But Jen and Matt, who would be trying to protect their daughter, would be very invested in the idea of, yes, Higgins has a Jeep. Yes, it was there. Yes, it's white. Because if a Jeep is spotted in town, they don't want anyone to think that it's Allie. They want people to think that it's Higgins. So I feel like each one is kind of trying to protect themselves by creating distance and planting accusations almost about the Jeep to muddy the waters even further. But that's just a hypothesis. What do y'all think?
This is what I would have to know is for the McCabe's Jeep. I would have to know if they're talking about a Jeep Wrangler, because if you have a like a Jeep Wrangler. Now we have the type of a Jeep that traditionally it has a bumper that's meant to have a winch and a plow on it. If you're talking about a Jeep Cherokee or a Grand Cherokee or something like that, that's a completely different setup. You actually
Yeah.
need to buy an entire rig to hook up to the frame in order to mount a plow on something like a Jeep Cherokee or Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
So
And they're
I
both
don't know.
Wranglers. They're both
They're both okay. So
Wranglers.
they're both Wranglers. So they have the nouveau style where everyone has like a lifted 4-door Wrangler that has like big mutter tires. And
Probably.
Higgins was his Jeep one of those lifted types, or was it a set low kind of a Jeep that just happened to have a plow, more like a utility Jeep than a sexy I'm driving around West Palm Beach kind of a Jeep? No,
To me,
I'm not even trying to be funny. Just
No, I know.
distinction.
Just
the
you said
only
sexy
difference,
Jeep.
like when I looked at the pictures side by side, and the only difference that I saw, and admittedly I wasn't looking to see if it had a lift kit, but the only difference that I noticed between the two models was 4-door versus 2-door. Like they had the same type of top, like on the back, like everything else looked, and that's the thing about Jeeps. They're so consistent from model year to model year that it's tough to even gauge what year it is, because, it's just very consistent, a very classic design to it.
Well, I'll
So,
have to see. I'll have to see the photos, because a lot of people that plow will use a more utility looking Jeep that they didn't spend a ton of money on it, and it doesn't have 33-inch tires and a lift kit and all that neat stuff.
Right.
And the 4-door Jeeps have become very much a fashion plate. Anybody who goes down to Destin, Florida, there is an entire dealership that has nothing but lifted Jeeps. And you can either buy one that they've customized that say, okay, I like that one, or they'll customize one for you. But there's nothing but 4-door lifted Jeeps with all different assortment of rims and brush bars and everything else. So that was the thing where I'm picturing Higgins in more of a winter type Jeep that he plows with, rather than a Jeep that's a fashion statement. Most of those Jeeps never even leave the road. They never even go off the road. They're meant to be washed and waxed and
cherished.
Tire shine and the whole 9 yards on them. But
can I
great
add
point,
something?
Justil.
You
Please, ma'am.
wrong.
You wrong.
Kevin from South Boston.
Just
And
saying.
These flames right here, I just got to know, are these for Beatriz again? Are these for Grace or me? I'm just kidding.
I think
We don't
there's
need
one
to
for
know
each of
that.
us.
There you go. That's why there's 3. Yes. You wrong,
All right.
Sherry D.
Let's see. Is there anything? Somebody was responding to some idiot that was saying Chloe's still alive, and Trooper somebody has the proof, so we just kicked him out of here, because we don't need one of the McAlberts in here just acting like an idiot, because
if anybody
no
has any
proof.
info about the shelter that Chloe originated from, because remember how Nicole said that Chloe had originated from a shelter in Texas, and when it was time to rehome Chloe, that she had first contacted the shelter in Texas to see if they had any connections for rehoming her. I live like an hour away from the Texas German Shepherd rescue, whatever. Like if anybody has any like further information, I'd be happy to go over and speak to them or contact them or whatever. If we knew that was where, and I mean, it would be a very awkward conversation, but I'd be happy to give it a try if it could further the investigation.
Yeah, I don't think they that nobody knows where that dog is. Period. Nobody knows that dog.
Or
is
where
here.
she came from. I
But
mean,
wouldn't
just
it be?
that
It
would
would be so
amazing,
interesting to know, like, oh yeah, Nicole did call, versus no, we never heard from them again.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to get with. I mean, they probably have expunged the records from the veterinarian. The veterinarian, you will have turned over all the records that you had to the veterinarian, specifically the initial shots that she got as a puppy.
Yeah.
You guys heard that gentleman who was on with Melanie Little, and I'll forget his name.
Garrett
that
Wing.
he said, what's his name?
Garrett Wing.
Garrett Wing, and he said generally they don't use the females as police dogs, but that's not a universal rule, and it's quite possible that Chloe had tried and failed out of one of those academies, and that's how they were able to get her. Because I'm sure Brian Albert wouldn't be spending like $2,000 or $3,000 on a purebred German Shepherd. He'd be looking like, I can get new rims for my truck.
Yeah.
So, what's this? Nurse Sasha, thank you for your comment up there. Karen losing her mind in the background was genuine. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's no
I was
question.
thinking that when Grace was talking. I think the
this
only
is what
reaction
Sasha said earlier.
Yeah.
Sasha, where's your other comment? But Sasha was basically saying that Jen's behavior was inconsistent.
Exactly.
Here it is right here. This is what it was. Somebody read it for the audience, man.
No one ever calls 911 so calm like she did. If you know the person, you're taken by surprise.
And are taken by surprise.
Yeah.
And are taken by. That's the whole thing.
And you're not going to discourage people from doing CPR, and you're not going to tell 911 that you think he's already gone when you haven't even been there to assess. Like, there's just so much wrong with that conversation.
Let's just think
a man passed out in the lawn
at 34 Fairview, the famous Albert's residence. Yeah. Everybody knows them all around the world. They're famous.
Well, and that's another thing that I take so much issue with is, why did she feel comfortable going into that house? Like, when I put myself in Jen McCabe's shoes, if I have tried to call my sister, if I have tried to call my brother-in-law, nobody's answering. The dog is not going bonkers. There's a dead man out in the front of the lawn. In my mind, everyone in the house has been annihilated, and it is not safe to go in there. I would be begging the police to kick down the door to make sure that my relatives were alive. I wouldn't be like scuttering off and like, sneaking in to let them know. I would be like, and if I were the police, I'd be thinking exigent circumstances. We need to kick down the door and make sure that this isn't a massacre. But let's talk about
that for a second. But I just want to say thank you to Colleen, because Colleen obviously is the proprietor of a horse rescue. And thank you very much, Colleen, for doing that, ma'am.
Yes.
And and the other thing, and Valhalla Law has something, but I want to say this. Again, we could look at Grace, we could look at lenses, and you're looking through the lens of somebody who doesn't look at Brian Albert with the sense of idolatry that certainly Jen McCabe does. This is a superhero. This is Super Cop. This is RoboCop. This is the unbeatable, unbreakable Brian Albert. And she will not have thought, even if she didn't know, you know what? You make a good point, but she would think there's nobody going to that house and taking out Brian Albert. Not going to happen. He probably has weapons in the bathroom, under the vanity, taped to the toilet seat like the Godfather. Godfather 1, if you guys remember that. Remember? Michael goes in the bathroom and, okay, you guys don't know Godfather 1. I'm smart.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Okay. So, but yeah, so it's possible, but I agree. Her behavior is all of their behaviors are behaviors of guilt. That's why this is so absurd. A prosecutor would have ripped, and I'm going to curse now, would have ripped the shit out of every one of these people if they were civilians. They would have tore them limb from limb. There would be nothing left sitting at the defense table if they were civilians, because every single thing they did is guilty. So when an idiot shows up in this chat and acts like, oh, they have Chloe's records, you have no proof that Chloe is alive, my friend. None. Period.
Yeah, well, and
Chloe is dead, buried in rural Massachusetts somewhere, sadly, because I love dogs. Another Brian Albert victim.
Brian Albert, like, the idea that he doesn't lock his door. I mean, give me a break. Who pisses off fugitives on the daily and then doesn't lock their own front door? Like, that makes no sense to me. And the fact that he's a combat veteran, I mean, my husband is a combat veteran. Like, He is obsessive about locking the doors. He is obsessive about protecting our family. He doesn't like, he's never fully asleep at night. Like he hears one little sound and he's like up to go investigate it, back to his, back to the corner in any restaurant to be able to keep an eye on everything. Like, I think all of these things are reflexes. So Brian Albert seems to be acting out of character as well by not having these basic reflexes. I mean, was he really so deeply asleep that he missed the commotion on the lawn? Like, what kind of first responder is that?
Oh, no, nobody. I mean,
And
but
same with Kelleher.
you can't even answer that question, because for you to answer that question, Grace, means that it's a serious question. Yeah. So for you to even just go through the energy and air you just took to convert CO2 to oxygen, for yourself, is like, of course it's a lie. Of course Kelleher's a liar. These guys are liars. That's what they do. So that's their game. Yeah. So this one right here, maybe Beatrice can read this one from Dallas. Great job tonight, by the way, Dallas. Great questions, great interaction.
Bringing it.
Grace, in my mind was blown with your last video and the explanation of the floors. I've been racking my brain over the floors. What was your reaction when your experiment worked? Surprised or excited?
Oh, both. Well, not necessarily surprised. I was surprised. Okay, so you have to remember that there was a delay in logging the floors, so I thought that my experiment had failed. I was like, oh, like I was, quite frankly, I was kind of annoyed that I had flung myself on the floor so passionately. Like, I mean, I really committed to the bit, like I was flinging myself down and getting back up and hopping around like a boxer and flinging myself down again. So when I looked and I saw that there was no data, I was like, oh, God, like I was so disappointed. And then later when I went to start up the CPR experiment, I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, there is a floor. When did it happen? And it was exactly during the time that my fling down experiments had taken place. And so that's when I was excited, because I was like, I knew it, because I knew that there was another explanation, that it literally did not make sense for him to be ascending and descending. Well, first of all, descending, they don't track descending floors. So I knew that was a problem. But there was like the math just wasn't coming together until that moment. And I was like, it was just such a victory, like, oh.
And a lot of us didn't even know that. We didn't even know it doesn't track descending, only ascending. So
it was so weird that everyone agreed on that language when it literally doesn't track descending. Like, show me one that does. I've never seen it. And it certainly wasn't that night because of Newton's laws of gravity. Anything that went up would have come back down. We know that Jen McCabe didn't stay in Brian Albert's bedroom forever. She had to come back down, but there was no log of it. So because of the lack of paired data, it demonstrates that descending floors were not tracked that night, or possibly ever. So it's just weird that both sides agreed to use that language,
Can I ask you a question though, Grace? Do both you and Beatrice want to say hello to the sexy John Como?
Yay! Hey, John Como.
Sexiest man in Camden. Besides Mr. Sweeney, of course.
Yeah,
Video
John
shows
Como.
We're going back to get the phone. Shows who? What video?
I think he's talking about, because I saw it pop up when you were talking about Carrie.
Okay.
Or I think
about her actions in terms of the car, like going exiting the car, getting the phone, that kind of stuff. I think that's what she's talking about. He's talking about.
I need to see.
Oh, John,
let me
just
see if he
posted
wants
something
to.
else. Yeah, he did. He just clarified.
Let me see if he wants to come on real quick.
Oh, okay. He said, I just went back to Sarah, shows up on the scene at 6:10, and the phone would have lined up with Kerry's movement. The dash cam would show the movements.
Okay. So
Hold
Sarah.
on. We'll try to get him on here so he can.
Yeah.
So he can. I just sent him a link. Or I sent the link to the chat
To
so
the
he
chat.
can get up in here if he wants. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if somebody else wants
Yeah.
to come up. We don't have a whole lot of time left, so this will be kind of like the last thing. DJ, the information I pulled up on Chloe, I will send to you. If she finds credible, if great, that's not all right. All right, thank you, Reality Check. And by the way, thank you very much for your donation of $4.99, girlfriend.
Tina.
Can I get a man? Look who's here, the legend.
Oh my
in the
God.
building.
Me, the man, the myth,
Finally!
the legend.
We haven't met
Hello.
in person.
Hold
Hello.
on.
Nice to see you.
So,
Look at that. I want, John, before you say anything, I
I
want to talk about the Fu Manchu because you look like one of the characters in Slapshot, and you and I are the only two on this panel that know that movie.
I
With
actually
Paul
know
Newman.
some. I actually know the man that comes out, Poodles, that comes out at the end of the movie. He's got the big afro. Played hockey against my father back down in the Cape Cod League. Poodles Lucier. He comes out right after the Indian on that the last game when the other team lines up with all the tough guys.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I knew there was a connection. So wonderful Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
That alone deserers an award. I just want to say that.
So,
right?
so
Would
you're
you
gonna
guys
have to
agree?
bear with
Yeah.
you're gonna have to bear with me because I
Yeah.
I'm not in a studio. I don't have I was watching the Patriots and watching you guys at the same time, and I've been I know some people know I've been doing similar research into like everybody's testimony and lining it up with what what actually happened. I just went back and I looked, and Sarah shows up on scene at 6:10.
Okay.
And the one thing I haven't done is I didn't match because we know Carrie had the phone. We just don't know from when she had the phone,
Yeah.
and she doesn't even know who she handed the phone to. So the one thing I didn't do is go back through all the footage and look at all the dash cams to see what matches Carrie's movements. And then when the phone, I want to see if, like, when did she hand it off? Because when does the phone move and Carrie's not moving?
Right. Good
Yeah.
point. Very good point. Yeah. I wish we had Carrie's data. I wish that we had Karen's data would be helpful, because that would make the Commonwealth's whole, John acquired those floors when he was driving on a hilly road. Like if Karen's data didn't have that, then guess what? It didn't happen.
Right.
So it would be nice if we had everybody else's. I would love to see Higgins' step data because I am I'm like 99% sure that he was the one that dropped the phone off directly between the flagpole and the fire hydrant
I marked it. Yep.
on his way back. Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to see his step data, but these things happen on base. Sometimes you just have to get rid of your phone and your SIM card.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
Right.
always that's why I always go to like some sort of secure facility to dispose of my SIM card. I mean, that is
Critical.
That is totally consistent with behavior for an innocent person.
After having specific information extracted too, on top
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Going over to the kiosk.
Very normal. Yeah.
We're
Very
going to get John to read this after I say thank you. Muito obrigado, amiguinha linda. Go ahead if you would read this one, John. Thank you.
Listen, I can't.
He doesn't have his
because I'm-
glasses on.
I don't have my glasses
Christ.
on. I'm
right.
using my phone. So I told you,
All
just
right,
have to bear with me.
All
You
right,
know?
Bia, this is you.
I got you, John.
Thank you.
What
I mean, I can
So-
see you guys. I just can't read
Yeah.
it.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
Hey,
it.
I'm
I
with
knew
you,
he was
brother.
going to say he didn't have his glasses. That's how much I've
ahead.
watched him. Anyways, crazy Brazilian lady, thank you for the $9.99. What makes me happy is Coco tried to sleep every night and knows the truth that Karen didn't do it. Can't wait to see her next child and look like an 80-year-old lady from all the stress.
Yeah.
Oh
mean-
man, it's someone else. We got another one from D-Mart. Thank you. Oh man, look at this, man. From D-Mart. Let me get this in here. Oh no, oh, look at this, Mrs. Mullins.
Aw.
Yeah.
Detective Mullins.
You didn't have to do that, Detective. Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting us borrow this sexy animal for a couple minutes there. Okay.
So I the last week I had a little fun with similar things where I broke down Allie's testimony compared to Chris's testimony compared to the actual times from the surveillance footages of when they left the bar. And
what'd you find?
well, there's no way she could have. So, well, first off, we know they lied because she either lied to Colin or so she when Colin texted at 11:54, come get me.
Yeah.
Right. And she said, I'm driving people home. But according to her testimony, she said after she dropped other people home, she went to someone else's house. She never says whose house and she never says where. Right. But here's the thing. One of the girls that she dropped off lives 1 block away from 34 Fairview on Spring Lane. Okay. That being said, so at 11, if we were to believe the texts, he texts her at 11:54, come get me. Once again, I don't believe them, but we'll go with their facts. So she also, her Life 360 shows her leaving her house at 12:06.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, to get from her house to his house, right? It was 4 minutes. No, it's not 4 minutes, especially in the snow. It's more like 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And when Chris says he leaves the bar at 12:14, I did a whole thing where like I put it all in chronological orders, and I'm like, well, there's no way that Allie could have pulled into the driveway on the left side because Coco and Coco's car was there, and then Brian would have pulled in with the car that they came back from the bar with. And and they said that they saw Colin on his way out. So there's no way Allie pulled into the left side of the driveway because that would have been full. So if she, let's say, and she is correct that she didn't see Jen because they would have crossed paths because Jen was on her way from the bar to 34 Fairview and she would have been on her way from 34 Fairview to the library or the condos next to the library. So they would have had the Life 360 would have had to cross paths with each other.
Yeah.
So
and the Life 360 is, I was very surprised that they didn't share more detailed information from it because it's there. Like it's you just have to tap on the trip to get all the specific details of it. So it was odd to me that they only shared the overviews of it. Like they could have had very specific information from that.
Well, if she had picked up Colin at the times they said she did and brought him home, they would have beat Chris home on his walk home from the waterfall.
Makes sense.
And
yet Chris was supposedly asleep or whatever.
Chris was already asleep. So there's no way that happened with the way they're saying it. And so when I posted that, I got attacked on Twitter. They're all like, "Oh, what's your infatuation with girls and this and that?" I go, "It's not infatuation with girls. I mean, infatuated with the lies that these people are telling because it just doesn't math."
Yeah, it's
infatuation with
justice.
Can I interrupt here for a second?
Sure.
Apparently, girls are infatuated with John because John, the people have spoken, my friend.
Yeah,
they want the shirt off.
So you know what happened the other night? I shaved on Friday night. No, wait. What night was the snowstorm? Friday night was a snowstorm. So Saturday morning, I was like, oh my God, I got to shave. And like 2 years ago, I only had like 3 little whites right here. And I went in to shave, and there was a whole colony. And I'm like, that's it. Those things are coming off right now. But just for the winter, just for Christmas, I'm doing the Fu Manchu. That'll all come off.
I love it. It looks awesome.
It looks cool.
Beatrice, I think what I'm seeing here is the next time we need to have we need to do this over, but do this for like 2 hours. Just John and his colleague here, Grace. I think that's what we need to do, right?
I'm game. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fun.
I'll have to send you. Yeah. Well, I
it's
will
fun to geek out with others, you know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yours is so much better. Like I watch all yours. Yours is I'm just
Thank
I'm just
you.
going in through all the court. Just doing screen records from what they said in court.
That's important too. I feel like it is far too big for any one person to do the whole thing. Like everybody has to kind of have their own little like bitty bit that they're
Corner.
focusing
Yeah.
on. Yeah. And so I love that everybody, like the JFK guys are focusing on the waterfall and you're
Yeah.
focusing on the testimony. Like it's great that everybody is just kind of tornadoing down on just specific
Yeah.
little
Yep.
chunks.
So the big thing is,
Great.
it's like a lot of people. I find it. Nobody. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people, their attention span is like 3 to 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
that's a given. Like nobody's going to watch, a 10-20 minute video. So
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I got to get it down, and I don't want to pay for the extra Twitter, so I have to keep it under a certain amount to
Smart.
post the videos on Twitter. So that's why I try to keep mine as short. Like, and what'll happen is I'll be going through whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll be watching the arguments, and someone will say something, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I go right back into all the video footage, and I'm like, nope, 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 and then I put it all together.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
I mean, that's what's
awesome.
amazing about this whole movement, that you have
Mhm.
Grace in Texas who is taking the time to do stuff from Massachusetts. And that's what's amazing. I mean, you're right. I know that you're not in Canton right now, but you've
But I'm in
lived,
there daily, almost
but you're in
daily.
there
Yep.
daily, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're all playing our part, and it's amazing what we've been able to create, and unintentionally, just from watching the sham of a trial, that we are all dissecting this on a whole nother level. I've never seen anything like this be done.
Yep.
And that's why I even, like, when I saw went on the Las Vegas cops, I'm like, thank you for taking an interest in our state.
Yes.
Like it's crazy the amount of support everywhere. I mean, the Aussies, like everyone is just putting in so much effort into helping us. And who knows, maybe the defense is out there listening to us and all our crazy theories and what we think, and maybe they take something away from each and every, YouTube show.
Yeah. And the thing of it
Grace is a native, by the way. So her heart is in Massachusetts.
My heart is in Massachusetts, but my body has been here in Texas for the last 18 years.
Real quickly, I saw something go across. I can't read everything, but I did see a free Whitey.
Dino.
And I'm going on that day because I was there that night, and
I heard
nothing happened. Yeah,
that was for Dina, because she's one of the standout warriors.
That's
right.
Awesome.
That's Dina, right? Dina.
Yes, it is the Dina.
Dina.
Yes, I saw her this morning.
Awesome.
Oh, Microdots was a press with Grace tonight.
Oh,
Check
cool.
out the Glare show.
That's a high praise.
Where's Richie? Richie, where are you?
Oh,
we
he's
can't
awesome.
see you.
I love his work.
Yeah.
He's so skilled with technology. I'm over here with the Fisher Price toys, like lining them up.
That was me. I used to
He's
send my stuff to him. I used to send my stuff to him before I posted. I'd be like, "What do you think? Is this good enough to post?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, go ahead." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah.
Well,
He's awesome.
Let me ask a question to Dennis, because Dennis is in the chat. Dennis, are you ready for the Canton Roundtable? We're talking about you. We're talking about your wife, John, Tom, Scott. Like, let's get a bunch of
that's gonna be
another
legends.
female in there. Well, yeah, we need some of you
legends.
gangsters in there. But Dennis today, he said Dennis referred to Grace as the female Microdots. So
yes,
what a compliment! Thank you, Dennis.
yes, he did. Go ahead. What were you going to say, John?
TJ,
I'm sorry to interrupt
well,
you,
I need you for this one because
Yes,
you do know the truth behind this. Can we clear up just for all the haters? When I was hyping the original show that you were going to have me on,
Yep.
is it true that I really didn't have anything? We were going to make it up, and basically my Twitter posts were really just trying to hype the show. I wasn't dropping any names. I had no names to drop.
Yes, I said that on
All
Twitter.
right.
I said
All right.
it was you had a gag that you were going to do, and I was actually part of the gag. You were
I
gonna
had so
gag on
many
me
people.
too.
They
Yeah.
thought they're like, oh no, you were gonna. I'm like, no, I had nothing.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
man. That was
Yeah.
no. Yes. So please, everybody, just yeah. Calling all beings, I sent information to you. I found to you if you would give it to Grace. Yes, and I believe that's about Chloe the dog. So
Okay,
I will do that.
cool.
Hopefully, Nurse Kim
Awesome.
has a great photo where she's at the beach and Chloe's on the beach towel next to her, and Chloe has sunglasses on. So
Yeah.
I love that. I know because I do
That'd
feel
be
bad for Chloe.
awesome.
And I'll vouch
Let's
for
see.
you, John. DJ doesn't prep.
Thank you.
Like he wings it, and that's why this works. And that's why all of this makes sense. He is not into this whole prepping. I used to sit here literally and write things down on a piece of paper that I was going to bring up because
what I
I
would do,
wanted
yeah.
to be prepped. But DJ's like, no, we're just doing this, man. We're just doing this.
That's what it was. He was
That's
like, I'm like,
bold.
I go, why do you won't even have me on? He goes, oh, we'll come up with something. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do we got? And he's the one that came up with the sexiest man thing, not me. That wasn't me. That was
No,
all
that was
him. And
me.
I'm like, I got to come up with something. And I was just gonna have a gag, but I was just throwing it out there, and then then other stuff kind of happened, and it made it look
good.
even worse than it
But
was.
look at you. We're winging
But
this
look,
today, and this is awesome.
DJ, you know what this background is. You know what this is.
Oh boy.
Oh.
We are not talking
Over
about
here?
that unless John, no. I am so blessed. I talked about my blessings last night. So some of these blessings are like, John and Dennis and Tommy and, Bia and Scott, right? And all these folks that are willing to talk to me and explain to me what the hell's going on, because I wouldn't know from afar. So thank you so much, John, for your friendship. I know I tell you that on the phone, but I want to say it in front of everybody. And I really, really do appreciate you. And we always have all kinds of fun, man, when we get on the phone. There's always laughs. Even if he's like really upset about something, like I'm like,
yeah, no, I was for those couple of days.
That's the only thing I got to bring to the community. Because like you're talking about like all the research you guys do. It's like, what am I doing? I'm not doing shit. I'm just
You're bringing it together.
You're the peacemaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And
like
the thing is-
Avengers Assemble.
Right.
Now,
I love you guys.
Did you see the other one that I can't believe I missed this? Somebody had made the a comment, and I went back and found it. Jen was on the phone with Brian at the same time. They were all in the house together when Yuri and Proctor were interviewing them individually. Why is she so according to them, each person was in the dining room while the other two were in the bedroom upstairs when each one got interviewed. But if you go to Jen's phone records, she was it lends you to believe when she was getting interviewed, did she have her phone on so Brian could listen to what the interview was? Because that's when her phone when they were interviewing Jen in the house.
Good point. She was using it like a walkie-talkie almost.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
yeah. So if you look at her phone records and then you go back to the testimony and you look at when the state police went to interview them at her house, she was on the phone with Brian. Why are you on the phone with somebody when they're in the same house as you?
yeah.
That was your tweet. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
I did that video.
That is amazing, man.
Yeah.
That-
It
John,
makes me
missed
like
that.
queasy though to think about that level of malice. Like just
that's what
you
I said. She makes me. Somebody in the chat earlier. I don't know if it was Sasha, but someone was saying they watched. Just rewatch. And no, I think it was actually. It was from our friend from Christine from Manchester in England. She said, I just rewatched all the Jen McCabe testimony and I physically can't do it because she makes me so sick.
Mm-hmm.
She makes me like want to puke because she's such a liar and there's something so vile about
Can you
that
show me?
in her.
Can you show me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, John really does know her. You went to high school with her,
No,
right? She was younger?
The Daniels, they're younger, but they were like 4 houses away from my last house that was before I moved out of town. They lived on the same street. But I'm the same. We all graduated together. It was Lank, Chris, myself, Lucky. We're all class of '90. That was, it was, but those girls were younger.
But you knew them, right? Like
Oh yeah,
you've
yeah.
had conversations.
Canton's not
Right.
as big of a town as they tried to make it sound.
So could you
everybody,
see her being
everybody knew everyone.
conniving? Can you see her? Like, is this kind of her personality? Like, does that make sense to you?
So I didn't interact with them much. It would be mostly Chris, Lank in the past, Lucky. I lived right near the DPW, so I'd see Lucky the most. Oh
man.
Yeah, but like I said, Canton's not a big town. It really isn't.
All right. It's about time to shut it down for tonight. We've gone 2 hours and 14 minutes, so I'm sure that by now Grace has to take a biological break. John,
thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, John.
That was unexpected.
Can I finish my sentence? Can anybody let me finish a sentence? I want to say something to John.
We're having so much fun. We don't want to stop.
I don't want. I know totally. I just want to let John know we will see you, because I don't know if but we will see you on the 12th for breakfast, lunch, something like that.
Yeah.
So we will. Okay. So I'll see you that day along with some of the other legends. And boy, Grace, thank you so much, ma'am. I mean,
thank you for having
what you're doing
today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, everyone loves your work. Everyone loves he was even brought up in it's some YouTube shows. Like, it's definitely
awesome.
It's getting out there. I really think you're doing an amazing job, even if it's little Hot Wheels cars. Doing what you're doing, it's awesome. We so appreciate your point of view.
Just don't listen to her when you're in bed, because you will. It's so soothing. Just fall right off.
Thank you. But that's the goal. That's the goal. We need legal content that isn't so overstimulating, that because there are so many times when I listen to Emily D. Baker and then she gets out the screaming goat and I'm almost asleep, and then you hear the goat going, I'm so we need it.
You're a blessing. You really are. All of you are. John is a blessing. Beatriz, all of you are. And I want to say to the chat, thank you, everybody, tonight. You guys were just so communicative with all of us. You were incredibly generous with your donations and all that stuff, which is totally not necessary. I don't know what we have coming up. I'm going to be busy trying to think about what kind of show I want to do between the holidays and all that. And then Calling All Beings will come back to do another UFO episode with Christopher Sharp, the UK journalist, around mid to end of January. After I come back from visiting Canton, Dedham, and all that neat stuff, we'll bring the Calling All Beings crew back to talk about all the drone stuff that's going on with some really, really good UAP journalists. And we're definitely going to have these two back. I got to get a plan. I want John solo. I want him on the Legends Roundtable. And I want him on a duet with Grace, where we just go hog-ass wild with all their analysis. So John is more than just a pretty face, Grace. I mean, I can see that.
Yes, I can tell. I can tell.
All right. On that note, I'm out. Thank you.
All right.
Bye,
guys.
Bye, John.
On behalf of John, Grace, and Beatrice, this DJ saying peace out. One love. We'll see you down the road. And as always, thank you, chat. Love you. We always wondering what's up around the bend. Yeah, it looks like they want to see